even if they weren't the ones that crossed in first, they helped that other crew cross ahead of them because they laid down, how do you do your opponent respect? You lay down your best race. That is the ultimate pay of respect.
Absolutely. And we'll probably see some more of that unfold in the women's U17 double B final. Over in lane 0, we have Founders. Lane 1, Bainbridge Island. Lane 2, Row LA. Lane 3, First Coast. Lane 4, Unaffiliated. Lane 5, North Carolina. Lane 6, Conestoga. And Lane 7, Camp Randall. Early lead here by First Coast in the blue boat, but pretty hard to tell for the next boats either side of them, whether it be Row LA and Bainbridge Island off to their right-hand side, then followed very closely by Founders, or out to their other side with the Unaffiliated boat and North Carolina boat holding on.
And we have a couple more beautiful boats here. Got that nice dark blue, but then you have that North Carolina. I'm trying to figure out if that's the North Carolina blue for their boat.
Could be.
Depends on which North Carolina you're talking about.
We're
Meaning
talking
the schools.
UNC, the Tar Heels.
Yeah. Well, that'd be the baby blue. Yeah.
Yes.
NC State red, Duke of Darker blue.
Very true. That is very true. Very true.
But really mature race happening, I think, across lanes 0 through, across all lanes, but 0 through 2, having those boats right next to you, and then being able to look across for Unaffiliated in North Carolina, hopping over that First Coast in lane 3. So you have a really good race, lane 0, lane 1, lane 2, lane 4, lane 5, all right there in the thick of it. Maybe a small lead with Row LA over those 4 or 5 other boats, but again, a lot happens over that middle 1,000 and into that last 500 meters. But as we see it now, that is something that is unfolding.
And it looks like we will still have a very commanding lead here with First Coast leading in that dark blue boat here, followed by, I would say...
It's hard to tell here. So I know initially we were saying Row LA had a little bit of the edge over that field for second, but I think that maybe North Carolina, they have made a little bit of a push, maybe about a deck over the Unaffiliated boat.
I would say that too.
And a little... Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and very tight between their Unaffiliated and Row LA. First Coast is the crew that out through those semifinals yesterday. They were the first crew out of the A final. They had the fastest time among these crews relative between the 2 semifinals. Again, hard to cross compare. The second of the 2 semifinals was the faster of the 2 semis yesterday that we saw. So to see First Coast out there with the lead that they have open water on the field. That is playing out similarly to the speed that they laid down yesterday. If I'm in that boat, I'm thinking, let's find more speed. What can we learn from yesterday that'll help us be a little bit better? Because you never know how it's going to go until you're in those lanes next to the other crews. We're deep into the third 500 at this point, 750 meters or less to go. Still First Coast out there in that beautiful kind of, I don't even know what kind of blue to call it. It's like an iridescent blue almost. It reflects nicely on the water. Very identifiable for those who have either rowed or coached in Florida. That's trademark colors for them. That crew out of North Carolina was on the move there, but the Unaffiliated crew starting to pick back up with them as well as they make that move.
Lovely shot here of the flat water.
Say that.
Makes me want to be out there.
All right. Maybe not doing 2Ks, but
looking like a good time.
Just a little paddle down the way.
Still out in the lead for First Coast, and look at Row LA over there. They maybe have a bow ball. They're trading bow balls with this North Carolina boat. North Carolina maybe now crossing that line together. This is a perfect shot of the drone, giving you that angle of where are those buoys, what is the actual parallel to the finish line. Right now, neck and neck between Row LA and North Carolina, with the Unaffiliated crew just about a half of a length off of North Carolina. Those 2 crews being so far away from each other without a coxswain, it's very hard to know where you are at this point. Even if you're ahead by a length, sometimes it's hard to know where you are at that point just because the peripheral vision isn't that good in the heat of the moment like this. As they are all into the last 500 meters of the race, First Coast is still, looks like they might have even started to pick it up or at least get a little bit more organized to begin their sprint even earlier than just 250 meters or even earlier than 300 meters to go. North Carolina on the advance now. They know that with just a few strokes to go, it is horses to the barn. You're just thinking, back up your teammate, push the legs, take it one stroke at a time, stay clean so that you can be more effective as you get deeper into your sprint as the finish line unwinds. An old coworker of mine, she used to love to say, never leave it in the hands of the judges, right? Never leave it in the hands of the judges. So make the decision far enough away from the finish line that you give yourself enough time to go fast.
Yeah. Make it known. Make it known, and that they are. So definitely it's still making it known. First Coast still keeping that lead. North Carolina, Row LA duking it out. As they come closer to our finish line tower, we'll be able to interpret a little bit more of what's happening. But again, silent boat, everyone out there on the shore, give them a shoot and a holler because they need some of this energy. There is some tight racing unfolding there across either side of First Coast between Row LA and North Carolina.
The sprint at Row LA that's starting to unwind. Row LA has another gear, and they are looking to break what's happening in North Carolina, in that yellow hole out of North Carolina. So the emotion is certainly with Row LA right now. North Carolina keeping an eye on them and staying quite calm in terms of how they're moving the boat. Still, First Coast feeling a little bit of pressure. They are sprinting as well. First Coast, open water. That gives them more than a 3-second lead over a very tight race between Row LA and North Carolina. That has been a very tight race for those two crews for hundreds of meters. Row LA about a half of a length, just over about a half of a length over North Carolina at this point. They really went for it in that sprint.
Unaffiliated group.
And these two close races here over, we've got Camp Randall and Conestoga duking it out along with that far lane of Bainbridge over in lane 1, then rounding out the field with lane 0, Founders.
I believe it was Bainbridge Island, though, that was able to come across just ahead of these two inside crews. The Camp Randall-Conestoga race was very close, but Bainbridge Island was able to maintain the lead over them over on that far side of the course.